it was worth pointing out actually that That's TV is a little bit better. It's a minor channel. It seems quite cheaply run, but it's actually kind of better. Let's have a look at why at the start of this video, and then I'm just going to see why Sky Movies is not as exciting these days. Oh, now what number's it on? Keeps changing every week. "171." Yeah, they're showing. Yeah, they're showing something that's quite interesting about the making of Mr. Bean, or the story behind it, and they're now showing Benidorm, and they've got the rights to The Fall and Rise of Reginald Perrin. So there's more stuff that's interesting on That's TV, in other words. But anyway, for bank holidays, even though it's all archive. So let's just have a quick look at the state of the movie channels at the moment. I don't know why I'm thinking about them exactly, but I was just thinking, well, they're not as exciting. So one idea I thought of for these would be to make Sky's entertainment package seem like better value. I think eventually they maybe should include the movie channels in it by default, because they don't seem that premium anymore. So a quick overview of it is that years ago in the 90s, I think it might have even been 1990 or something like that, there was a single movie channel. When BSB formed through merging, no, British Satellite Broadcasting merged with Sky, didn't it? And that became B Sky B, and I think essentially that's what the company is today. They launched a single movie channel, then there was Sky Movies, and for some reason they had those generic names, the two of them, Sky Movies, then the movie channel. And that is what existed on analog for a while throughout the 90s, and it was the first premium channel where you had to pay a little bit extra to Sky. I think it started out maybe at £10 a month, maybe it was £7 a month. Then they launched Sky Movies Gold, so you had some classic movies on it, so there were sort of three channels. And that, I think, only broadcast after the Disney Channel. So that was, the Disney Channel sat alongside them as the premium package. So you had this sort of channel that showed Disney animations and Disney films and series like Home Improvement, for example. It started to show. You had that sitting alongside these three movie channels, and then with the launch of Sky Digital, it expanded to 12 channels. It had undergone a rebrand to Sky Premier, which was a pretty good name, and that was for the channel showing the latest movies. Then there was a sort of B channel, if you like, that often showed the more B movie choices like horrors, sci-fi films, or whatever else, called Sky Movie Max. Then there was Sky Cinema, which was a rebranded Movies Gold, where classic films would be shown. And then with the launch of Sky Digital, they took these three channels and added extra channels and numbered them. So you had Premiere 1 to 4, then you had Movie Max 1 to 5, and Cinema 1 and 2, and then Premiere Widescreen, because widescreen was premium. And that seemed to show quite a lot of films, and it was quite an appealing package in those days, when to have all those linear channels showing the latest films in particular. And since then, there were more rebrandings. They went for a time in the noughties of just having the channels numbered Sky Movies 1 to 10, and that was it. And then they introduced, from I think it was 2007, genre channels, and that is the theme that has been stuck with for today, until today. And the thing that I find a little bit boring is the only real expansion has been that the movie's now being available on demand. It's kind of like a Netflix service, so that you can get it through the on-demand section and the box set section on these boxes here, through the Sky Cinema section. You can play any film that they're showing on the channels anytime, which I guess is a good thing. But other than that, the experience has stayed the same in that since the launch of Sky Digital, there has been 12 linear channels of the Sky Cinema channels, which is what they've decided to call them. Can't remember what year they brought that in. Might have been sometime just before the pandemic, I think it was. And so it's stuck with these 12 channels here that are linear. 11 of them are in HD, as you can see. That's now standard, at least. You used to have to pay extra to get the Sky Cinema channels in HD, but they've now at least merged that in so that if you subscribe to them, it will always be in HD. At least there's that. But the genre channels and the amount of them have stayed exactly the same for years. The only thing that keeps happening now is, instead of launching any new channels, they just keep taking these genre channels and temporarily renaming them, rebranding them, so to speak. So I forget what you normally even supposed to get on 302 and 303. It's something like hits normally, or it used to be things like select or something. They keep changing it so that it's like superhero movies. They've taken the drama romance channel and just temporarily rebranded it romantic comedies. And it kind of, I don't know, it kind of, and even temporarily rebranding to show films with a certain actor or actress in, like Julia Roberts or Will Smith. I don't know, there's something about my sort of OCD-like nature where it doesn't really appeal to me. I don't know, it just sort of, it's kind of like I'd like it to stay. It's like if Gold kept changing the name of their channel every week, so it became The Only Fools and Horses. They actually called it that on the EPG. And they've done this with the Sky Sports channels as well. They've called it like Sky Sports Darts and Sky Sports The Open. And I'd rather have like a consistency. I'm not sure how many of you would care about this, but it's like, you know, there's a Sky comedy screen, there's a family and drama. I'd kind of rather it stayed like that all the time, and maybe on not Sky Drama Romance, they actually just said, oh, this is a Julia Roberts season, we're just going to show Julia Roberts films, but left the channel name alone. It kind of makes you feel a bit uneasy from an OCD perspective, I don't know. Just seeing these constant changes all the time. And it kind of serves to remind you that there's only a limited number of channels and they'll never add any more. I think I heard, I don't know why this would be the case, but that they had the rights to launch at one point 35 different linear channels. And I would rather that they did this to make it more interesting. One thing I'd really be interested in, and probably one of the only temporary rebrands I tend to like, is when they do decade screens. So, you know, they have an 80s movie channel, 90s, noughties. And I actually think that that's a good enough idea that it would be good if it became permanent. So that's sort of one problem with it. It kind of feels like they keep changing them. I mean, they also created a Lord of the Rings channel temporarily in one of them as well, you know, just out of 3 movies. I mean, they've done Harry Potter numerous times. At least there's about 7 or 8 movies, isn't there, in that. There's 3 Lord of the Rings movies. They didn't even have the Hobbit movies to add to it. Didn't even show the 1978 animation. They just showed the same 3 movies on repeat. I think one of the first times they actually did this is when they temporarily got the rights to the Bond movies, which is usually sits with ITV, and it's gone back to ITV after it, certainly. And they actually had a Bond channel, you know, Sky Movies 007. Maybe this sort of set them off on this, because they've done it ever since, and it's just, I don't know, it just makes me feel like not subscribing to the channels. The animation channel seems to have stuck, and this has really appeared since they lost the Disney screen. They actually had a whole Disney screen that kind of replaced Disney Cinemagic, didn't it? And now, because of Disney Plus, Disney pulled out. They've no longer got the rights to any Disney films, and their response was to have an animation channel, which actually I think I quite like that idea, that there's a permanent animation screen there. But obviously, even though I'm saying it anyway, it's not going to include Disney on there. It includes everything that they can get the rights to. So I think the movie channels do face multiple problems. And one is that, especially because of other streaming services now, like Netflix, Amazon Video, and Paramount Plus, and they keep rising, they can't get as many premieres as they used to, so it feels less exclusive. And you can see that in just today's lineup here of what's coming up on Sunday evening on the linear channels, you can see that a lot of it are older films that if you're into movies, you've probably seen them. And they've always done this to an extent, but back when I felt they were at their strongest, which is when they had like sort of Sky Premiere 2 and 3 and Movie Max 2 and 3 and all that. I felt like they were showing a lot of new movies at the time, and Hollywood itself seemed to be just bursting full of interesting ideas. It was the time of like The Truman Show, American Beauty, even good British stuff like Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, and these channels were just full of them. If you subscribed to the early movie channels when Sky Digital expanded them, you would get top entertainment every night because it was packed full of them. There were some older films shown, but it didn't dominate as much as it does now. Seems now it's more like an all-time sort of movies. But they're neglecting true classics. They've got no classic screen anymore. There was a great screen, which I think was the closest they got to it, and they keep rebranding that. I think that's supposed to be on 302 normally, but keeps disappearing for this stuff. So you can just see from the menu of films that you get that it's almost like it is some of the same films you got when it was Sky Premiere 2, 3 and 4 and all that. It's still being shown today, like My Best Friend's Wedding, Notting Hill. Some, films themselves do feel like they've got a bit weaker from Hollywood anyway, so it would probably be a very tough ask to expect the Sky Cinema channels to be full of new content, mostly new content. It does have a lot of the newer films there. I mean, 301 is devoted to that now, and I'm not sure it's an idea I like particularly, because when the Sky Premiere channel launched, it didn't have literally just newer, like one lineup of newer films repeated endlessly. It was like a linear channel. It was a linear channel full of different films being shown, but it would show the premieres as well and integrate them into the schedule. So what they started to do a bit later on is, once they got rid of the Sky Premiere brand, they came up with Sky Premiere, and it just shows the same few films every week that are new to the channel, but doesn't really mix them in with the other channels very much. And it creates a very boring schedule. They could mix it in. They could sort of mix it in more. And it particularly seems to highlight when they haven't got a very big movie to show. When they have, you can see it's prominently on this channel. For example, Top Gun Maverick has recently appeared on Sky Premiere. But this week, and that hardly sets the world on fire, does it? And every single day of the week until they change the films once a week, it just shows these boring films over and over. So actually they used to show it on the same exact schedule, but maybe they're changing that. Maybe they are changing that. They used to just have the same schedule every week of what it would be, and the films wouldn't change. It looks like they're mixing them around, but the same films are just being shown at a slightly different time. So it looks like they have done that idea. It's just that it's been so long to even watch the channel to even notice them changing anything. But God, what a load of boring films those seem. I'm sorry to say, I don't know how many fans it gets. I used to love so many movies from Hollywood originally. I got into it big time around the sort of late 90s, particularly. And it did seem more entertaining. I don't know what's changed. There's a lot of remakes and a lot of rehashed ideas that when you discover movies for the first time, you actually don't feel that, do you? But you do, but now you really do. So you've got now Scream being shown from 1996, and now they're just rehashing that again. There's a 22 one that they're refusing to call Scream 6. They're just, So what I would suggest, and especially if there's a lot of churn, is when you think of the competition, actually, and this is quite a good point. So when you think of Prime Video and Netflix, they don't distinguish between all the other entertainment that's on Netflix and Prime Video, etc., or Paramount Plus, and charge subscribers extras for movie access. The movies they have are just shown with everything else. So I actually think this might be a good idea for Sky to do. So this is the entertainment package. Any of the pay channels here are part of Sky's offering. And it seems weaker. There's a lot of Sky branded channels now, which I quite like the idea of, but the reason why they have launched recently-ish is because a lot of big names are pulling out and putting their content on streaming services. And so Sky have had to actually up the number of channels they offer to replace the likes of Universal, Fox. I can't really think of other examples, but Disney is a good one actually. It's taken its linear channels off satellite in the UK. They still exist in the States, and Sky has to do something else to replace that. It would be good if they would mix the movie channels in with it and not distinguish movies as a premium thing anymore against, you know, on top of the entertainment. See, this Sky Kids channel here has launched because of the lack of Disney. You know, because this section was starting to look very sparse. I mean, if Nickelodeon pulls out, there'll be virtually nothing left, as you can see. So, what can Sky do, actually, to keep itself relevant? Well, that could be one thing that it could do, I think. So, yeah, that's kind of my view of the movie channels, really. It doesn't really feel that special anymore. There's too many older movies around. And they're still sort of charging, I don't know what it is. You probably pay up towards £40 a month on the standard price to access channels full of a lot of movies from the 90s, etc. You know, that if you're into movies, you've probably seen them, and the new stuff doesn't really excite very much that they are able to get, and they can't get as many premieres as they used to anyway. A lot of the better stuff sometimes goes to streaming services like Netflix or Prime Video, so I don't really know what it is they could do to make it better, but I think maybe they could drop out of this rigid idea of sticking to 12 linear channels and add some decade screens. Maybe go to 20 linear channels, even though we can access it through the box sets and the catch up, and that's how it works on Sky Q that I won't get as well, but yeah, I don't know. It's never seemed like a more boring time for the Sky Movies channel, the Sky Cinema channels as they're now known.